Hi, so my name is Alon Chen, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tastewise. Tastewise is a consumer intelligence platform leveraging artificial intelligence to actually detect the next food trend and help food brands, small and big, actually understand what is happening with consumers today and what will happen in the future, so they can actually plan their both their product innovation and marketing innovation to move forward. So food is a massive industry, right? $5 trillion worldwide. It's actually the largest industry out there. It's 10% of anything consumers spend on is food. I'm personally spending probably more than 20%. And for a very long while, consumers and what they wanted from food and beverage didn't really change. But in the past couple of years, right? Everything is changing, and that's why we're all here today to try and understand what is changing and how can we actually adapt to it. Let's take a couple of examples that are impacting everything that we as food industry need to do every day. Time, for instance. How many of us are actually managed by our schedules and calendars? Sometimes even to get quality time with our beloved ones, we're putting a slot in the calendar, right? And so when time is so pushing, we're seeing phenomena like food deliveries rising in more than 20% year over year, and it's probably the fastest rising category in the food industry today. It's also making all of us spending a lot of more money on prepared foods, and I'll touch upon it later on in my presentation. Second thing, and it was mentioned in the previous panel, actually health, right? We look at food as a very functional thing today, especially around health. 79% of millennials actually say that they're willing to pay more money for healthier food, and they really want to have healthier food. So it's on their top of mind, and we heard Gen Z is actually even more so. So really everything is changing when we are making decisions, or we're getting to the shelf, or when we're opening the delivery app and trying to find out what is it that we want to order. A lot of it has changed because of technology, right? Artificial intelligence that's already out there. All the data we're getting exposed to in the social networks, all the information that we're being shared with friends, and access to research and facts that help us make decisions, sometimes not for the good. And as an industry, if we really want to understand consumers today, we have to understand that the context is changing. Consumers have a lot more opportunities and a lot more channels where they can source their foods and when they can engage with their food. And so, if you really want to understand consumers, and companies are actually having it as their top of mind, they're investing tens of billions of dollars on consumer intelligence. However, most of the traditional marketing research is slow, irrelevant, and outdated. Let's take a couple examples. So surveys and focus groups. Imagine you're walking in the mall and someone pulls you, tells me, I'll get you a $100 voucher if you answer a couple of questions. A lot of the food corporations are actually spending tens of millions of dollars on surveys, and they're taking 100 people, and they're hoping that they're reflecting the US Census, and basing their entire corporate strategy and product line and marketing initiatives on it. Second thing, retail analytics. So retail analytics is basically the information about what do we buy when we walk into the grocer, right? However, today in the US, the average consumer is spending more than 50% of their food and beverage budget on restaurants and prepared food. So when you're looking at retail data, you're looking at less than 50% of the spend, not so relevant, and actually it's the least innovative category, right? Third, last but not least, the in-house data. If you're an extremely sophisticated corporation, you have a lot of data about what you're selling, historic data, data from your marketing initiatives. And if you process it well, you know what is happening within your company. But you don't know what you don't know, right? Because if you're using in-house data to try and understand what is the white space out there in the market that I can tap into, you're probably not doing the right thing. And so we're facing an environment where today 85% is actually a conservative number. It's more, it's closer to 90% of the products that we're investing so much resource on thinking, developing, researching, getting to market, getting shelf space, and they're arriving too late, they don't fit the needs, and they don't meet the cravings. Now, breaking this cycle, companies really must understand what are the current diets, what are the current ingredients, who needs what are people trying to solve with food, what function does it address, and how can they actually be faster, more diverse, and personal, which is not a privilege anymore. It is essential in every business, small or big, that is being run today. I'll skip this one. The good news is that the data is already there. When we're thinking about it, our eating and drinking has never been more digitalized and photographed and captured than ever before. We're seeing billions of images of eating and drinking being shared in the US alone every month. We have only in our database more than 2 million recipes and more than 8 billion engagement with these recipes, helping us understand what is happening when someone is walking into their kitchen, opening the fridge and trying to solve a problem. They want to fix a dinner for their kids. They want to treat their new condition maybe and have a little bit more anti-inflammatory foods. We currently look at 170,000 restaurant menus. It's the largest data sets of US restaurant menus, updated on a weekly basis to see what is changing. What are the chefs that are so close to the consumer doing? How do they respond to what is happening in their restaurant space? What people search for, and so on and so forth, right? So there's so much data. But to be able to do that, we actually need to have the technology that connects the dots. How can you actually process so much data? How can you connect someone's image to something that was mentioned on the menu, to my next business strategy, to the next product that I can bring to market, to the next marketing initiative that's going to capture people's minds? And so when we're thinking about artificial intelligence, we're thinking about computer vision. How can we look at an image and understand the context of eating? Were you there alone? Were you there with friends? Or what was on the plate? What was next to it? Were you eating out of a box or on a tray? Natural language processing or natural language understanding. People tell a lot about their experiences, right? They write on restaurant review sites, on social media, and they actually share their needs, and they share the reason of why they were actually choosing to eat or drink something. Context analysis, where was it done, in which context? Predictive analytics, how does the graph looks like in the future? And all of that is already available. And what it allows you as a food brand, as a marketeer, as a brand manager, product manager, small or big, it allows you to get a lot more granular, which is needed. It allows you to understand that, yes, maybe someone told you there is a new trend called bowls. Everything in a bowl, right? Burrito bowl, right? California bowl instead of a roll. Everything in a bowl. It addresses a couple, basic needs from the consumers of maybe going gluten-free and having a lot more whole foods in a bowl and making it a meal, like the old good ramen. But what it really allows you is to see what are the things that people add into their bowl when they're making it at home. What do they do when they walk into a restaurant? What might be missing when they go in a restaurant that they really love at home? And what is happening in New York versus what is happening in Boston, right? These are insights that you can already get today. The data is out there, and it can be actually leveraged. There's a lot of discussion around veganism and vegetarianism, of course, diets that are so important for the sustainability of our world. But if you're a food brand and you don't realize that actually veganism has maxed out and it's starting to go down, but ketogenic and low carb diets have doubled in the past few months, and you might not be on top of it, and you might not actually make sure that your product addresses these needs, and actually maybe you can write a recipe that will inspire people and how your product can actually help them stay in a keto compatible diet. And the cool part is, and when you're thinking about innovation, this is key. is finding the human motivation that caused someone to choose a product over another, to choose a diet over another. What was the core motivation for people, for instance, when they were eating ube? You know, ube is the purple yam that comes from the Philippines, and it's great that you know that ube is now being added to cheesecakes and ice creams and all sort of desserts. But what you really need to understand is why. And with predictive technology that analyzes, the eating and drinking, you can find that the main reason people love ube is because it has natural sweetness to it. It's ethnic, it's Filipino. It's perceived as a superfood, and it has an amazing color, so it makes a beautiful Instagram moments. And if you want to think about the future of desserts, maybe you need to find the next colorant that is going to be exotic and have some natural sweetness to it, and that will be the next ube. When you open up your food delivery app and you're searching for cauliflower rice, right? You're not really searching for cauliflower rice. What you want is food that is going to be compatible with your keto diet, right? It's food that is going to be compatible with a low carb. And when you know that, it opens up a realm of so many new opportunities. And so cauliflower rice and broccoli rice, they're exploding on the web today, and people are actually buying them frozen, and they're making them at home and super useful. But what really this tells us is that there are so many shifts, in the food industry today. And there is a lot of new demands, and there is the supply. And the ones that are actually going to capture the supply are the ones that are going to move fast. And I have just one, example of an industry that is moving extremely fast and is actually almost a kept secret. Virtual restaurants or ghost kitchens. How many of you heard about this term? Some of you. So basically, when you're thinking about it, a lot of the food that we're eating today, we're ordering on the delivery apps, right? Especially millennials and young professionals. And what is happening today is already tens of thousands of virtual restaurants operating in the US today, meaning these are restaurants that do not have brick and mortar. You cannot walk in and get takeaway even. They're only a kitchen making food that is addressing a new trend or a new need within an area that does not have currently availability of restaurants. And so when you have this, real-time insights and you understand that, you can create maybe in downtown Brooklyn a new ketoria, because you know that there are a lot of people that are looking for keto-compatible food when they're getting back home. And I'm very excited, to be actually already working with some of the largest food and beverage brands in the world, as well as some of the technology providers like the food delivery platforms and so on some of this extremely exciting stuff and use cases. However, our platform and technology is available for businesses of any size, and you can register and get a lot of the data for free even without leaving a credit card. You just log into our website. So please feel free to visit tastewise.io and get the data. And I really hope that I answered some of the questions of how artificial intelligence is already changing the food industry that it is today, and even more importantly, how can we dream about the future and basing our most business critical decisions on real life, real-time data. Thank you very much.